Hi, I'm Simon K. Jones, and this is the latest chapter of Tales from the Triverse. This is the last flight of the Beagle, Part 2. In the Mesosphere, Max Earth, 2550 March Earth time. Lola regretted having part of a 200-year-old journal hidden within the folds of her dress, its weight pushing hard against her chest, compounding the discomfort of tumbling through Earth's upper atmosphere in a progressively less functioning spaceship. A week earlier, she'd never been in a spaceship. As she was battered by her restraints, as the hull screamed and loose objects ricocheted around the cabin like bullets from a gun, as the temperature rose and alarms sounded, as wires fell from the broken ceiling and lights failed and sparks arced through the darkness, she thought, what brought me to this moment? They were going to die here. It wouldn't be her first time. Once she'd have been petrified, unable to think or act, entirely lost in an unfamiliar ocean far from home. The impossibility of the situation would have overcome her, driven her mad in the moment, the Lola Styles that bounced into the office and got the work done and went to bed early with a good book. That version of her still existed, was still in there, but it was encased in a suit of armour. She'd died once, had been torn apart, and yet she'd continued as something new. The Triverse could kill her again, could have the Beagle disintegrate above the planet, or smash into the ground, her body obliterated or crushed or burned, and still she would persevere. Her only concern was for the others. Above all, she wanted to protect them, but could do nothing but sit and wait, buffeted left and right and up and down. There was a grinding noise and a shudder, followed by the acute nausea. With no windows or external feeds, there was nothing to indicate what was happening to the ship outside. They were sat in an especially chaotic room, but were blind to what was really happening. Save for Justin's informative updates. "We are being fired upon," they said. "Using the Earth's atmosphere for deceleration enables us to maintain high speed while approaching our target landing site, which keeps as much distance between us and probably better as possible. Alas, it also points a very bright streak of ionization at our specific position, and evasive manoeuvring is unwise in this scenario." A pause. "As such, we have lost the rightmost engine, and will be unable to land in a properly controlled manner. Please do keep your seatbelts fastened." A streak of light, slicing the sky from horizon to horizon, a shooting star, drawing a slender ring of fire around the planet. For the inhabitants of Max Earth, so used to centuries of quiet and stability, it was a herald of something new and dangerous and unknown. It was first thought to be a meteor, on an unusually oblique trajectory. On the dark side, away from the sun, it was a blazing strand so bright as to block out the stars. As it spread, crossing the skies above continents, moving into the daylight, it remained a scar in the heavens, as if the universe itself was being cut by a knife. Some thought it was a continuation of the joining, a final apocalyptic rending of space and time, a storm signalling the end of all things. Children looked up in awe. Scientists, and military personnel, and air and space traffic control recognized it to be a ship, approaching at unfathomable speeds. A mistake, surely. A pilot malfunction, or a catastrophic engine failure, or someone seeking a dramatic way to end their life. A one-off incident that would be analysed for years to come. That was before the second trail appeared, alongside and set back as if chasing the first. Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The new job was in the centre of the city, near the portal station and the cultural sub-city. Gerard was excited to finally be doing something meaningful, having spent most of his 20s travelling the system and wondering what the point of living in the 26th century even was. Then he'd visited a gallery on Mars, and it had changed his life. He was to study at the Institute for 2 years, and would then transition into tour guide and curator. Human guides were paid well, with international and interplanetary visitors paying a premium. Guests from the other side of the portal were different, still having a quaint fascination with automated AI guides. It was the tourist thing to do, but the locals opted for the more boutique approach. Getting onto the training programme wasn't easy, given the competition, but he'd passed the initial tests with high scores. For the first time, it felt like he knew where his life was headed. On the way to the gallery, he walked past a string of cafes and food markets, the smells endlessly tempting, despite it being early morning and having only had breakfast half an hour earlier. The gut still sat warmly in his stomach. But the street spices grabbed him by the nostrils, urging him to get a snack or a coffee. While he gazed at a laminated menu fixed to a lamppost outside a cafe, contemplating a small something to keep him going through the morning, he slowly became aware of a repeating sound, an alarm coming from down the street in the direction of the portal station. His attention shifted begrudgingly from the menu to see crowds of people streaming from the doors of the station and down the wide curved steps and paths. They were pouring onto the street, where it looked like police were assembling, forming cordons and directing people to move away from the station. "What's going on there?" he said to the man behind the counter, who shrugged and continued to race around his pop-up kitchen. Gerard pulled up a news feed. There was indeed an alert for the local area, warning people to evacuate. "Oh shit," he said, clicking his fingers in the direction of the cook. "Hey man, I think we need to go." Other people on the street nearby were checking their own messages and updates, voices raising and worried glances being shot between strangers. Nobody knew what to do or whether to take the messages seriously. A policewoman turned the corner and started waving at everyone nearby. "Clear the street, please." Her voice was amplified via an augmentation, easily heard above the din and chatter of the morning traffic. Nothing had ever happened like this before, that Jura could remember. The question of what could have provoked such a response in the heart of the city was answered a moment later by a cracking boom that echoed down the street, reverberating off every surface and shattering every window. Glass sprayed into the air, drawing screams from the pedestrians. Vehicles skidded to a stop, an aerial taxi spinning out of control and coming down hard into the side of an office block. Gerard had always wondered how he'd react in an emergency situation. If a natural disaster struck, he'd always thought he'd freeze or run and be generally terrified and a bit useless. He did run towards the crashed taxi. It had landed on its side, its engines still pulsing beneath and blasting debris back inside the building. He was moving carefully over exposed steel and shattered brick when there was another boom, much louder this time, and he turned to face the direction everyone was pointing. A ship was coming down. Not a taxi or some other flying car, an actual spaceship, a huge thing, wide and long and looking like it had already taken a battering. It was glowing red, flame gushing from one side, a billowing plume of black smoke arcing back up into the sky. It came upon them in seconds, clipping the side of a tall building, drifting sideways, then crunching down onto the tarmac, where it skidded along, pushing parked vehicles out of its way, pulling down cables and lights and dragging market stalls in its wake. The noise was cacophonous, Gerard feeling as if his ears would burst. It kept scraping along, ripping up the road, as if it would barrel right into the portal station itself at the far end. After what seemed like an age, it came to rest, rocking back into an awkward position, like a whale on a beach. From the taxi came a cry for help. He forced his attention back and climbed onto its top, which was, in fact, its side. The door was misshapen and reluctant to open, but his combined efforts with the people inside got it to surrender. They were a family, parents and a young daughter, bloodied, bashed up, but able to walk. Gerard crouched and helped them out of the upturned taxi, the mother hugging him on her way. He turned back to the crashed ship. An incongruous silence had fallen on the street. Those people still standing to the edges, who had flattened themselves against walls or dived inside shops to evade the crash, were starting to move, dazed, confused. Fire continued to belch from one of the ship's engines. He'd never seen a ship so beaten up. It was a miracle it had landed at all, rather than disintegrating on its way down. There might be survivors. Gerard started running down the street, towards the crash site and the portal station. Thanks for listening. Next week gets even more crazy. You can find more and leave comments and all of that good stuff over on the newsletter at simonkjones.substack.com.